Hey everybody, it's Charlie from DM Moto, and a few weeks ago we had the Honda NX500 on our DM Commuter daily rider test, and it performed admirably. Got great fuel economy, it was very comfortable, nice easy rider for around $7,000 to $8,000. But what if you want more grunt and more touring capability? Honda has that for you. This is the NT1100, featuring a 270-degree crank parallel twin, about 1100 cc, given the name, saddlebags, and a dual clutch automatic transmission. On top of that, you've got wired, which we'll talk about, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto support. You've got big old comfy seats, you've got heated grips, adjustable windscreen, all those sorts of features that should make this not only a great touring bike, but also a great daily rider sort of bike. So today we're going to head out on our test. We're going to fill this thing up, go out and do our 42-mile loop, come back, fill it up again, see what sort of fuel economy you get out of this large parallel twin, and talk about what it's like to use this bike as sort of a daily rider. It's so hard not to feel plagiaristic on these sort of daily rider tests. I didn't even really intend for this test to become this. It was more of a dedicated fuel economy test, but as many of you pointed out in the comments, it really makes sense to talk about the bike throughout the ride and what it's like using it in a real world sort of setting. So in order to test that out though, we've got the tire pressure set to their placard PSI. Actually just picked this bike up from Honda HQ not too long ago. We're looking at 36 PSI, no, that's maximum weight. Yeah, 36 front, 42 rear. That's a little high, but it is what it is. And what else? Outside temperature today, we're looking at about 64 degrees Fahrenheit right now. It'll probably be that throughout most of the test. And we're going to ride as you would just for a nice chill kind of morning ride into the office or something. Nothing too crazy. We're going to try to keep it within about 5 miles per hour of the posted speed limits, other than our quick little spirited riding section that we'll sprinkle in there. But without any further yapping, let's start this up. There it is. A very characteristic Honda sound. The engine's still not quite warmed up. We'll be a little gentle to it as we head over to the gas station. And for those of you who are not familiar with Honda's dual clutch automatic transmission, we'll talk about it a little bit here on the ride. But if you do want to see more of a dedicated breakdown of it, I'll link our video to our older CTX 700D video where I sort of explained everything about the Honda dual clutch automatic and how it works. Now, something to remember if you switch back and forth between motorcycles regularly is that Hondas have a different position for their horn and blinker setup. They're kind of inverse of nearly every other bike brand. A little frustrating. But if you just owned only this bike or only Hondas, it wouldn't be a big deal. We have some rain on the roads today. It might even rain on us a little tiny bit. So we're going to be riding nice and easy. And I think we're going to have to raise up the adjustable windscreen. It's a little chilly today. Plus, the thing is with a lot of these windshields is when they're at about this height, they end up just creating a lot of buffeting sound for you as an average size rider. So I'm going to raise that up here when we fill the bike up. I actually don't know what sort of fuel you need on this motorcycle. Typically, brands will put a little sticker when it requires premium gasoline, but I will have to check online real quick, see what sort of gas is required for this bike. Oh no! Wow, this gas station has really been letting me down. Huh. Okay, well, I guess we won't be getting fuel today or doing this test. Huh. Okay. We're gonna pivot. We are gonna pivot. All right. Looks like the gas station down the road is working, so I'm gonna have to recalculate the total distance we travel for this one, but we'll try to make it as similar as our usual tests. You do not need premium gasoline or 91 octane here in the 1100 from Honda. Now, I know there's going to be people going, oh, I never put anything other than premium in my motorcycle. Okay, but if the motor's not tuned for it, you're going to see minimal benefits other than possibly some extra detergents. So by all means, if you want to spend an extra, this is not even too bad here, an extra 38 cents per gallon, go for it. But in states where it's $1 more per gallon and you're riding this bike daily, don't bother spending the extra money. So we topped it off here with 87 octane. We're going to reset our trip computer. Okay, we are in tour ride mode. I gotta think about what way I'm gonna go here. We are ready to begin. I forgot to adjust our windshield. Is that something we can do on the fly? Yes, okay, at 35 miles per hour, very easy to lift that up. Cool. Now you might be able to hear that it is quieter now. As I said earlier, this is an automatic transmission motorcycle, but you can shift it manually using buttons on the left side of the handlebars. So even though I'm in automatic mode right now, I can press with my finger, or my thumb actually, downshift 5th, 4th, 3rd, etc. Or I can let the bike do its own shifting. But if I press this button here, A/M, it'll turn it into manual mode, and I will have to do all of the shifting. Now, I'm going to do most of this test in automatic mode. First of all, I think if you were just kind of taking a nice, easy ride into work, or even a stressful kind of commuter heavy ride into work, there's a good chance you would also just simply use automatic mode. I just took the automatic BMW R1300 RT, which we've got a video for, probably just went up before this one. I took that up into LA earlier this week, and I rode the entire trip in automatic mode because I was lane filtering, I was navigating traffic. It was there's no need for me to shift manually. Not only that, but if fuel economy is important to you, then you are likely going to achieve better efficiency using automatic mode, because you can see here in tour, the bike is upshifting very early. I'm doing 34 miles per hour and we're in 6th gear. So if I were to, you know, blip the accelerator, then it downshifts, but when I'm just putzing along here kind of casually, it shifts up very quickly, meaning we're going to use less fuel. Plenty of grunt from this inline 2. I usually like fewer cylinders for kind of commuter bikes like this. That being said, I'm still getting an awful buffeting from this windshield situation. Now it's kind of vibrating my head here at about 55 miles per hour. So I don't know what we're going to do about that. Interesting. It's kind of been perfect for us to have a number of sport tourers in the fleet, because it's getting chillier here in Southern California, and we've had quite a bit of rain recently. And I've been riding the bikes in sort of these rainy, cooler conditions. So I've really been able to attest to the kind of weather combating features on the bikes. This one doesn't have the same sort of hand wind protection that the Kawasaki Versys 1100 has. However, it does have this little bit of windscreen up in front here that does seem to deflect wind away from my hands. That being said, my hands are still getting a little bit chilly, so after this transit moves out of the way, we are going to engage the hand warmers using the function key, I believe. No, right now that's tuned to music. Oh, over here, function key on the right. All right, now we toggle between music and hand warmers. And then over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, wow, 5 different levels of hand warmer plus off, so really technically 6. Let's start with level 2. Another nice daily riding sort of feature on the 1100 is self-canceling turn signals. So as I make this turn and I get the bike back upright, our turn signal turns off. The way I like to see those is more of a fail-safe. I still like to manually cancel my turn signal. It's not a good habit, but if I forget, then I don't look like one of those dweebuses riding down the road with my turn signal on. Honda's had so many years now, more than a decade, to refine their dual clutch automatic algorithms, and it really does work well in this sort of riding environment. Coming away from that stop sign there, I pulled away kind of hard in 2nd gear and it held the revs out, and then once it realized that I was sort of off the accelerator for a longer period of time, it very quickly upshifted. And I'm feeling the shifts a lot less on this bike than I did on my old CTX. It's a much smoother shifting and experience, especially in the downshifting. I remember on my CTX when it used to downshift as I was coming to a stop, it would really clunk itself, and that doesn't really seem to happen as much on the NT. More of a tight city environment here, stop and go traffic. Again, the dual clutch, you know, sometimes it finds itself a little out of sorts. But all things considered, being able to focus more on the traffic situation and less on what gear you're in is typically going to result in a better situation for you. Let's try switching to the urban ride mode. Theoretically, that would be better for urban riding like this, right? You would think. Why didn't they just call them like normal, sport, and eco? Was that too passe? How about lane filtering? This is a tighter section of the city. The lanes are pretty tight. We do have those saddlebags on the back, the side cases, but the side cases are just about as wide as your handlebars. So if your handlebars can fit through, then the side cases should be able to fit as well. Famous last words, right? There we go. Squirt through. Yeah, torque. I will say there's quite a lumpy characteristic to the motor here around 3,000 RPM. I don't know if I really care for it. Like, it's almost to the point where I wonder if there's something wrong with this bike, because it just it's not very smooth at all, and it doesn't really fit. I could see it fitting the character of the Rebel 1100 a little bit more. It doesn't really fit this sport touring character. Also, interestingly, here in urban mode, you don't even get to see which gear you're in. It just has the speed and the tack and your fuel level. I guess they figure, don't worry about it if you're in urban. If you switch to manual, then do you see? No, but you do see it down here on this little digital gauge, because I haven't mentioned it yet, although I'm sure you all have noticed that we have 2 gauges here on this bike. And I guess it's because you can optionally have something like Android Auto or Apple CarPlay up here, and then legally you still have to have some sort of gauge pod, which, again, I appreciate actually, because I can go, let's see, like this, or is it like this? There we go. And then you can see all our information. The center screen is totally different. We can toggle down to something like our media, like that, and then I'm seeing my media from my phone, and then I still get my speed and my gear down at the bottom. I guess that's a pretty good solution. Beautiful morning out here on Pacific Coast Highway, California 1. We've got some big fluffer clouds, we've got some sunshine, 66 degrees Fahrenheit. Life is good. Except for all of that wind vibration. Not a fan of that. Now, if you do want to stay in automatic mode, but you want a little bit more spirited shifting, you press down here to get S. And there's actually 3 different levels of S. 1, 2, and 3 that kind of decide how aggressively it should hold gears. But now, it's going to kind of hold gear a little bit more like you might as a manual shifter. And again, Honda's algorithms are pretty good. Get back to rain mode or tour mode here so we can see our gear. You can see now it's holding forth a little while. I'm kind of riding a little more aggressively. It's going to hold that gear longer and maybe just shift to 5th here at some point instead of going all the way up to 6. There we go. Coming into Laguna Beach, good time to slow it down, appreciate the more subtle nature of the 1100 parallel twin. Not going to get you any tickets for noise, that's for sure, but much like Honda's 750 and the Transalp and the Hornet, it's got a nice little grunty character to it and grunty sound. I don't like the sound as much as I like the 750 though. I mean, maybe we'll see when we ring it out a little bit more how it sounds, but I liked the way that the 750 sounded better when kind of putzing around town. Well, that is an interesting camper right there. Holy cow, is that like a Unimog camper build out? That thing's probably $200,000. Nice thing about an automatic, so you don't have to worry about stalling it when you need to squirt through traffic here. Good low speed stability test here for the 1100 now. Well, only about 540 pounds, so not a crazy heavy bike by any means, especially for more of the touring capabilities. But if you're coming off of more of a naked or a sport bike, it's definitely going to feel like a little bit more weight. Someone's cooking burgers. That smells good. Third Street hill test. Interesting, we get an upshift even on the hill. This bike loves to upshift. But if you do live in an area with a lot of hills like this, you might appreciate the automatic transmission. Again, don't have to worry about feathering clutch as you come up hills or anything like that. And again, those of you who are not on Team Automatic, you have to acknowledge that it's still beneficial to the sport as a whole. Because if there are people who are interested in riding but aren't super comfortable with shifting on their own, then they've got the automatic to choose from. What if you've got somebody with an injury, whether it be their foot or their hand, and shifting is kind of out of the cards for them? Have a bike like this that'll do it for them. It's pretty nice. Honda also has the E-clutch on some of their smaller bikes. That makes it so you don't have to do the clutching with your left hand if you don't want to, but you still shift through with your foot. Here we are on our spirited riding section. However, because of the rains, it does seem that the road is a bit dirtied up. So we're going to be a little more careful. We are in user mode 1 right now, which is giving us full power, medium traction, and full engine braking. We'll put it into S. Let's actually, we'll shift ourselves. Woo, okay. Definitely some life there. Over 100 horsepower. Quite a bit of torque as well. Yeah, again, not a powertrain that really sounds like it loves being wrung out. But you've definitely got the power there where you need it. Let's go through the ride modes a little bit here on the NT. Now, I think somehow somebody messed up one of the ride modes, because Tour, from how it's been explained to me, is supposed to be full power, but here on the little power readout, it looks like it's only 1 out of 3. So I don't know if somebody changed that in the settings somehow, or what the deal is. But if we go to the user-defined modes, user 1, that one I specifically checked and set up so that it's at full power and full engine braking. So now I know it's all the way max. So I don't know what happened with Tour mode. But either way, Tour is supposed to be full power, Urban is supposed to be balanced, and then Rain is supposed to be minimal power. Which right now it looks like Rain is actually on full power. So that's... So, I don't know what's up with that. Somebody maybe before me who had this bike might have messed with the ride modes, and need to see if I can reset them to default. Because I know how to customize the user modes, I don't know how to customize the actual built-in modes. So I actually will probably end up doing most of the rest of the test in user 1, because that is what Tour is kind of supposed to be like. Coming up to the end of our slower speed riding section of the Commuter test. The dual clutch does well. Some of you, again, if this is your first automatic motorcycle, you're gonna ride it, especially in these lower speed sort of environments, and think, oh, this is pretty clunky. The thing is, it's not more clunky than a manual. It's just when you're shifting a manual transmission, then you are anticipating the clunks. You're the one pulling in the clutch, and you're the one clicking through the gears, letting the clutch back out. So whether you realize it or not, your body is making these micro braces and adjustments and preparations for the sensation you're about to feel. when the bike does it on your own, it's like riding in the car with somebody else. Have you ever ridden passenger seat in a manual transmission car? I mean, you're always getting moved around a little bit because you do not know when the shift is going to happen. That's a bit the characteristic that you get here on the DCT. Now, I will admit, it's not as smooth as something like BMW's new automatic transmission, but the bike is nearly a third of the cost of the BMW tester that we have, so I wouldn't expect it to be. Other than that, I mean, the bike is nice for bopping around the city. It's not sprightly, but it's comfortable. So now we've got a little bit more 55-mile-an-hour roads, and then coming up to the highway section, I think I might drop the windshield down a little bit here to see what sort of buffeting we get. It's a 5-position adjustable windscreen, so theoretically you can move it right around to a spot that is best for your comfort level. But this might just end up being a motorcycle that you got to wear earplugs with, because it seems like I'm always going to deal with some sort of loud wind noise at 5'10", 32-inch inseam. Now let's talk briefly about Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. It's not wireless. You have to be wired in, and the USB ports are right here, which essentially means you have to be running a cable either from your person up into the bike there in the front, or have something like a quad lock phone mount. There is a part of me that's kind of like, well, if you're going to have a phone mount here, then what's the point of plugging in and having Apple CarPlay or Android Auto when you could just look at your phone right in front of you? But me personally, despite being a bit of a tech enthusiast, when I ride, I kind of like to be free of my phone. It's an opportunity for me to not worry about it, not have a screen in front of me. Now, I will admit it would be nice to be able to have phone projection up here so that I could have navigation or be thumbing through my music, something like that. So I understand it would be more difficult and more costly for them to engineer some sort of wireless phone projection, but it would make the experience that much more desirable. Now, that being said, it's going to drain your phone battery faster, but that's a risk I'd be willing to take, especially if I were riding this bike on a commuter sort of daily rider situation. Coming up to the 5 freeway, I'm actually going to shift into S mode for this one. I just like having a little bit more urgency on tap with the dual clutch automatic. Filter up right through here. This one's gonna be a little tight, so we're gonna let the Rivian get going. There we go. Now hopefully you all will be able to hear me okay in the event that the audio is trash. I'll kind of wrap up my thoughts with you when we get off the highway. Woohoo! Of course, nice upright seating position. Being a sport tourer like this, I've got plenty of visibility around me. Maybe sit a little bit lower than some of the other touring bikes in this class. I can just barely make out the roof of that RDX in front of us. But we do have cruise control, thank goodness. So I'm gonna get up to 70-ish here. Settle in. Can you adjust the windscreen at highway speeds? Yes, you can. I really like the nifty but simple solution there that Honda's integrated for that. Up here around 70 miles per hour in 6th gear, you're just a hair under 4,000 RPM, so theoretically that should be quite good for our fuel economy. But according to the bike's readout, we are still only around 45 MPG, which not terrible for a bike this size and this power figure, but surprisingly similar to the BMW RT that we just tested, that's heavier and more powerful, and has a top box on it and a bigger windshield. So I think that's more of a testament to the BMW than anything. Let's try out the cruise control. There we are. It shows you what you're set at there. And down here as well, it just says cruise control on and set. Yeah, not a bad place to be on the highway. I am getting some wind coming in on my legs. My torso is pretty clean though. A little bit of wind coming off the side, getting my arms. I'm getting chilled a little bit here on this 65-degree day. Maybe I'll bump up my heated grips up to level 3. Yeah, no problems with the NT1100 on the highway. I'd like a little bit of quieter wind protection, but other than that, transmission works well, cruise control works well. I haven't mentioned the suspension at all yet. That's partially because it's doing its job. It's not remarkable in the sense of, oh wow, this is a really, really soft, comfortable motorcycle, but nothing I've been over today has been jarring, so it's dialed in nicely. You do have some manual preload adjustment over on the side that you can dial in if you got some passengers or some extra gear. Seat comfort's nice, good. It's a little bit of a narrower seat than you might get in some other sport touring competition, but it's covering my small butt well. And passenger seat also seems to be good and squishy and wide. Handlebars are a little bit in the sporty position, so I am finding my shoulders getting a little bit ready for a break. I find myself kind of leaning back and relaxing off the handlebars from time to time. It doesn't look like you could really move those toward the rider much. And I also find myself really scooting up to the front of the seats. I don't know if I have smaller arms or what the deal is, but just a little bit of an outstretched riding position, which for shorter rides I do actually prefer. But I will admit, after being in the saddle here for over an hour, my arms are getting a tad tired. According to the bike, we've used 0.9 gallons of fuel for 46.2 miles per gallon. I'm going to get this back to the pump and fill it up, and then I'm actually going to have to come home and manually calculate how long that ride was according to GPS, because I'm not going to trust the bike's trip meter. But we'll break down the numbers with you after that. I have to say though, as I'm coming near the end of this ride, I'm not blown away by the bike the same way that I was the little NX500. Now the NX500, you could argue, is not as good of a value on paper. This bike has much more power, many more features, and doesn't cost really that much more. This one about $12,000, the NX about $8,000, so for an extra one and a half of the NX, you're getting a lot more bike. But the nature of the NX500 and the Transalp, for that matter, are both more exciting and fun and kind of surprising. Why are you stopping? Why are you stopping? This isn't a stop. Go. This bike, maybe it's because of the dual clutch, maybe it's because of the engine. I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm not interested in riding it more. I'm kind of like, all right, I'm done with the ride. You know, we did the test here. Let's put it away. Now, maybe if I went on a more extended ride somewhere, which we do plan on doing with the NT, then maybe I'd feel a little differently. But I'm kind of just like, it's a very good bike on paper. Right, according to the bike, we are at exactly 1 gallon of fuel used, 64 miles traveled, and 64 MPG. But let's fill it up according to our own calculations, get it home, and crunch our final numbers. Back after fueling up and calculating our total miles traveled, we ended up doing a total of 45.7 miles in our testing, and we put in just under a gallon, 0.945 gallons, which gives us a total of 48 miles per gallon here on the NT1100 in mixed commuter style riding. Now again, for a bike that large, this large and powerful and capable, that's a pretty good figure. And the fact that going to a larger bike like this and riding it along means that you don't necessarily have to sacrifice that much fuel economy compared to something smaller and lighter like the NX500. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I had the windshield up, we had the side cases on. Not that bad of a figure. Now Honda's giving you a 5.4 gallon fuel tank, so 5.4 gallons times 48 miles per gallon. It's giving you a respectable 250, just a hair under 260 miles of mixed riding commuter fuel economy range here on the NT1100 DCT. Now, all things considered, like I said near the end of the test, I didn't fall in love with the bike riding it around. I kind of thought, okay, you know, good riding position, good transmission, all the features that I'd want in sort of a daily rider bike. I thought it would be just right for me. Yeah, it's just missing a little bit of a character and a soul to it. And maybe I'm a little bit tainted by the fact that right in the garage over there, we've got the Versys 1100 and the R1300 RT. And this one, I know, quite a bit less expensive, but if I'm going to be putting my life on two wheels, riding in a daily riding sort of situation, I either want it to be exciting or particularly affordable. And honestly, if I were going to kind of try to save money, I would just get the NX500, putz around town with that, and then I'd get a second bike, a sport bike, to go do my bigger trips, or maybe like an older Goldwing or something. So, I don't know. It's not a bad motorcycle by any means. It just didn't really wow me in the way that I was hoping. But I've got a good amount of time left with the bike. We're going to take it on some trips, and then I'll shoot my full review on it. And I actually just also filmed a comparison with the automatic BMW and this automatic to kind of talk about the pros and cons of each style. So check the link below if you want to see that, although I guess it'll be about a week or so after this post before that video comes out. And stay subscribed and tuned for our full review, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from DM Moto, and as always, ride on.